And this episode is sponsored by Camino Francés app, the easiest way to navigate the Camino with step-by-step directions and the complete guide to accommodations. Are you ready to walk Camino de Santiago, the legendary French way walked by millions, including Martin Sheen, Paulo Coelho, and even Stephen Hawking? It's more than just the logistics and food, it's about the journey of transformation. From the steep Pyrenees and the unforgettable first day to the silence of the Meseta, the emotional release of the Cruz de Ferro, the bustling crowds of Sarria and the bittersweet arrival in Santiago, there are 5 phases of Camino that will shape your entire way in the way you never even imagined. Yeah, we will cover the best places to rest, the best photo stops, and also the insider tips. But most importantly, this guide will help you to understand the moments that will help and change the way you perceive Camino de Santiago forever. I'm Ricky, and this is the Camino Francés guide. And so our journey begins at the small charming village of Saint-Jean-Pierre-de-Port. The iconic bridges, cinematic scenery where the way was filmed, and the French charm. But before you romanticize it too much, imagine this. You've flown across the world, 15 hours of travel, sprinting through the airport, catching buses, running on fumes, only to wake up the next morning and start the 785 kilometers walk. Crazy, right? This is the first important moment of the Camino de Santiago, just before the first day. Because the way you start will determine the way you shape entire experience. Instead of just running crazy the next day, walking the entire 35 kilometers, simply stay in the place, relax, breathe, adjust, stretch, stay hydrated, and instead of running into it, rather stay, remain silent, and keep focus on what's just in front of you. The big challenge of walking 500 miles. So how to get to Saint-Jean-Pierre-de-Port? It's easy. From France, you take a train from Bayonne, which is next to the Biarritz airport. And if you're from Spain, a single daily bus from Pamplona that you can book your tickets on alsa.es. And once you arrive to Saint-Jean-Pierre-de-Port, get to the pilgrim's office on the Rue Citadelle. Get your credential, get your first stamp, and some advices of how to conquer the first few days. But take it slow. Soak into the atmosphere. Give yourself and the body especially time to recover from the big journey and mentalize on what's ahead of you. And if you truly want to start the Camino the right way, join our 3 days pre-Camino retreats just outside of Saint-Jean-Pierre-de-Port. It's designed to help you prepare mentally and physically to let go, release, mentalize, or whatever's lying ahead. Just check it out, the link is in the description. Yes, the Camino is physically demanding, and it's not just about the first day when you're crossing the Pyrenees, and trust me, the descent is much more difficult than the ascent, but for the next 7 to 10 days you have to adjust to this special routine. Wake up early in the morning, walk for hours, have a simple food, and get the decent sleep, which not always gonna be nice and silent. Your feet will scream, your muscles will revolt, you're gonna find the blisters probably around every part of the body. But let's concentrate on the positive side, so how to ease the struggle. And first of all, start small. Aim for 15 kilometers day at first. Simply ignore what the main guidebooks say. There are no pre-arranged stages, and especially you shouldn't do 30 kilometer stages just in the beginning of your journey, which come naturally later on. There are plenty of albergues in between bigger cities, small little villages with even more charm that the people will welcome you with their open hands. Find your pace, don't rush, don't follow other people, and in this first physical phase you also have lots of time to experiment with the accommodations and getting to know what is Camino all about. So you can find the best donation-based albergues in Zabalica and Grañón, full of tradition and heritage. The best municipal albergues you will find in Asofra, Arres, Viana, Agues. Best private albergues, definitely Burguete, La Rasonia, Torres de Rio or Villa Tuerta. There are few important photo spots like the Hill of Forgiveness, which is Alto de Perdón, or the Irache wine fountain. Another spot is Puente de la Reina, the medieval masterpiece, the chickens of Santo Domingo, which is own tradition and history, and many others. And the pro tips of this stage, of this difficult physically stage, will be use the hiking pole, especially of going down, because you will need to find your balance, and also that takes out a bit of the weight of the back. Stretch and warm up before and after every day's hike. And as soon as possible, skip the extra wave, repack your bag and send home wherever you feel it's too much. Your backpack's going to be too heavy on the first days. And by the way, comment down below when is your Camino and what gear you're taking with you. How would you prepare for this first physical part? Yeah, important. Sharing is caring, so your voice matters. And if you think that the hardest part of Camino de Santiago is walking, you haven't walked Camino de Santiago. The meseta, starting after Burgos, it's a psychological battlefield. 200 kilometers of flat, endless horizon, no variety, no distractions, just silence. It's where the Camino stops being external and turns inward. Yet the most people don't admit its real challenge. Instead they say, it's too hot, the stages are too long, there is no water, which in fairness is kind of true, but let's debunk some myths about that. So the tap water is drinkable in Spain, so you can fill up the bottles on the long stretches or simply buy an extra bottle of water. There are fountains on the way and hidden stops, so ask hospitaleros in the albergue just before hitting your road where are the places you can fill up your water. Embrace the silence, because meseta is where the Camino truly becomes the journey within. And the best stops of meseta: San Anton and San Nicolas, albergues with no electricity but pure magic, Ontanas, a tiny village with the unforgettable church, Castro Heris, the longest village on the Camino, and the Bar Elvis in Reliegos, a bizarre, the most visited spot. And for us, meseta, it's actually time to be with ourselves, to find, or maybe to get even deeper into the reasons why I'm doing the Camino and where am I in this particular moment of life. If you skip it, you might not necessarily get into the depth of the thought process that you're actually on. And to be honest, I don't know anybody who walked the Reseta and regretted. And you see, one of the best ways to actually prepare for those long and isolated stretches is by planning your stops. That's where the Camino Francés app comes really handy. So it has maps and the GPS tracking. You can actually see how far and how you've walked and what's ahead. You have a complete accommodations listing, even in those hidden albergues that not always are in the guidebooks. None of the features that we love, we found really handy, is the direct WhatsApp contact with the accommodation. That means that instead of calling and pretending you speak Spanish, hola, ¿cómo estás? Quiero habitación, una persona, you can simply write them the text of when you're arriving, and even you can translate it, send it to them, and they can send you back the message and you can book it easily. This is when the 21st century technology actually helps instead of the complicating pilgrim's tradition. It also have attitude graphs, so you can prepare for the tough climbs before you're actually there. And the most important is absolutely for free. It helps us, for example, to see what's ahead. Like just on the meseta, there is one stage from Carrión de los Condes to the Calzadilla de la Cuesa. So for example, we use it especially if you want to check those parts of meseta to see if there is any stops, any points. In Carrión de los Condes, I can see there are a few bars just in the beginning, but then later on, once we out in the field, there is nothing around until one little bar stop just at the half away, which sometimes is actually there. And also if you want to get to the end of the stage, for example in Calzadilla de la Cuesa, it helps us to see which accommodations are there available, tell us the history, and also we can choose any of the spots. Like, let's just say we want to stay in, oh, this one actually has 4.5 stars, the reviews. I will choose this one. So as easy as that, right? It has 125 reviews. I think that I love this review part because I can simply say if it's nice and clean and nice and tidy. And you can download it from the Google Play or the App Store. So thank you, Camino Francés app, for sponsoring this episode and also making pilgrims' lives much, much easier. If you thought that you figured out everything by now, think again. This is the moment when the heart takes over. The physical struggle lessens, your body is used to walking. The mental challenges fade, you've learned to embrace the rhythm. But now the emotional depth of Camino reveals itself. This place is not about pain and exhaustion, it's about release, reflection, and transformation. There are places on the Camino that mark a transition, and Cruz de Ferro is the most symbolic of them all. Here, thousands of pilgrims have left stones, tokens, letters, and memories, representing burdens, griefs, regrets, and gratitude. Some carry a stone from their home to leave at the cross. Others place a letter to a loved one, whisper a prayer, or simply stand in silence. This is the moment to let go of whatever you no longer need to carry. The Camino teaches you that walking forwards means leaving something behind. When one door closes, the other doors opens. And there are the places that really stuck in the memory of the pilgrim, especially after the Cruz de Ferro. You can reach Manjarin, which is the peculiar albergue on the Camino connected to the Templars tradition. And farther along in Ponferrada, you will find another mark of temple tradition on the Camino de Santiago, the well-preserved Templars castle. And the Templars once protected pilgrims on the Camino, and nowadays their presence kind of recalls the perseverance, persistence, and the inner strength of their votes of service. And another emotional part of this phase is the feared climb to Osebreiro, a test of the soul. After days of walking through flat lands, the Camino throws you on the final physical tests. A climb to Osebreiro. This is the village lost in time with stone houses and legends of miracles, a steep entrance to the misty and ancient Galician land. But the climb is more than just the physical, it's deeply symbolic. It's the final push before the last stretch. It's the moment that you realize how far you've come. You've walked hundreds of kilometers, but the greatest realization is this. The Camino isn't just about reaching Santiago, it's about who you've become along the way. Then there are also the must-visit stops in this emotional phase. Obviously Fonsebadon, which is like a preparation for reaching to Cruz de Ferro, the Ponferrada and its Templars castle, Villafranca de Bierzo, which is the hidden gem with cozy plazas and beautiful medieval atmosphere, Las Herrerias, a peaceful village on the foot of Osebreiro, great to rest before the climb. This is the phase where everything slows down, where you look back and realize the Camino has been more than just to walk. You've walked through pain, silence, exhaustion, doubt, and joy. And now, standing on the doorstep of the Galicia, you're beginning to understand why you even came here in the first place. But there is still one important part of this journey, getting into Santiago, which might surprise you quite a lot. It's easy to find peace in the Himalayas. Try doing it at home with screaming kids. You see, the last 100 kilometers before the Santiago, that really starts with big dramatic shifts. Suddenly, the quiet solitude is replaced with crowds, organized group, loud chatter, and overbooked albergues. You see, many of the long distance pilgrims struggle with this last part from Sarria, and complaining that this isn't the real Camino, it's too crowded, there is music blasting everywhere, and which is obviously kind of true. But look at it from a different perspective, the Camino mirrors itself. In the moment when those pilgrims were starting in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port and meeting the pilgrims who already walked from France, for example from Le Puy, 800 kilometers, the situation was actually the same. There were those loud and freshly starting pilgrims for those who already walked for the month. The real lesson: adaptation, acceptance, integration. Instead of resisting, embrace the chaos. This is the final test before reaching the Santiago. Once you walk the Camino, you're in the big Camino bubble. You don't think about your outside words, you no connection to the words, there is nothing apart walking, sleeping, eating, and maybe talking to others, which is important in life. And suddenly you encounter this real busy life which is outside. You see, the top landmarks and the must-see spots in the last 100 kilometers are definitely Sarria, which is the starting point of the long distance for many pilgrims, and the beginning of the great Camino adventures for thousands and millions of pilgrims. Palas del Rey, surrounded by the charming Galician forest, the Melide with its famous pulpo, Arzua and the cheeses, and the Monte de Gozo, which is the place where you can actually the first time see the Cathedral of the Santiago de Compostela. And the final steps into Santiago kind of bittersweet, because walking into Santiago is surreal. It's simply... Anyways, there are some things I cannot simply tell you. You have to experience them on your own. But what I can tell you, simply get to the Pilgrim's Mass. You believe it, you don't, simply get there and find this moment of solitude and solace, and maybe even see Botafumeiro, the big incense hanging from side to side, and reflect on the journey you had. Go to the main square, the Praça Obradoiro, and spend there some time. Do not rush, just be with the pilgrims, talk to others, because it actually can be a good moment to recap your entire journey and share it with someone, and get your pilgrims certification from Pilgrims Office, the Compostela, the one you can see just there behind. It's open pretty much from 8 till 8. You have lots of time to take it. There's no rush whatsoever. Is it the end? Oh, it's just the beginning. It's the Camino that you just experience will affect only the Camino time, or will affect entire life. And remember, if this little guide was of any of help, please subscribe, give us a like, and even share this video with people who actually walk the Camino, which are the best shoes for the Camino de Santiago. This video here will tell you everything about it. And if you think in which weather is the most appropriate for you and your Camino, this video will help also tell you a lot. And I hope you have an amazing Camino journey. Buen Camino, Ultrea.